Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm doing something new and exciting. I recently purchased this entire set of Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay inks and I wanted to try them out with you guys and just see what comes out of this new experience. So if you guys don't know, I am a huge fan of EtchrLab, as I'm sure many of you also are. She's an amazing artist who mainly uses colored inks for all of her pieces, and I recently was so inspired that I got my own set to try out. I also purchased this little petal flower palette thing. So yeah, I've got all my stuff here. I trimmed down some paper that I had, some watercolor paper from Etcher. All the links to everything that I'm using in this video will be in the description box, so don't worry. And I also cut the corners to match the rounded corners that the pages already have. Then of course added some washi tape to create my beautiful borders to make that clean border cut effect, and I was very nervous. I actually already had an idea of what I wanted to draw. I sketched this out a few nights ago and I thought it was the perfect drawing to, you know, try out with inks. She's kind of inspired by this character that I've been developing for a comic that I've been writing. All stuff that's very still in, you know, in the very early stages. So yeah, I thought I'd, you know, use this character as my main subject in this painting. So yes, I got out my Faber-Castell 1.4mm mechanical pencil and I got to sketching out the drawing. And since I had the drawing in front of me, it was just a matter of scaling the drawing into a bigger size. And of course I added a lot more leaves than I had in the initial sketch because I really wanted to make this look like she was floating on top of like a bed of foliage and leaves, and I just wanted it to look really serene and peaceful, so I added a bunch of of leaves and flowers and stuff. Once I'd finished the sketch, I actually went ahead and tested out the inks on a separate piece of paper. I used just the bit that I chopped off from the same paper that I'm using for the final piece, so that, you know, I'm testing on the same paper that I'm going to be using for the final thing. So I'm going to be using this Pentel brush pen for all the line art. It's the pen that EtchrLab uses a lot, and I am a huge fan of this pen. I use it a lot myself. So I wanted to try out, see how, you know, these specific inks that I got interact with the brush pen and each other and the paper. You know, it's always good to do some tests before you get into the final thing. So yeah, I just mixed some colors in my little flower palette thing and tested them out to see if I liked the colors I'd picked out. And once I was happy with my color palette, I went in and actually lined the whole piece. As I said, I'm using this Pentel brush pen. It's really, really nice to use. I'm a big fan of this brush pen, and it's because you can go really, really thin, but also it has like individual little hairs in the brush, so you can color very large areas at a time if you need to. It's just very versatile and good to have in your pencil case. I also find lining with this pen is very therapeutic. I don't know why. I just think it's so calming to use this because you do have to be very light-handed if you want to go for a very thin line. And I quite enjoy that because normally, you know, using digital, a lot of the time you forget about, you know, the weight of your hand and how the weight of your hand impacts, you know, the thickness of the lines and stuff, because you can so easily manipulate that on different drawing softwares. So I don't know, it just was really nice to go back into traditional art. So yeah, I just kept lining. I was kind of dumb and started lining the the little fairy at the beginning, and then I remembered that I probably should be starting at the top left corner because I am right-handed, and I was afraid I was going to start smudging everything, so I immediately started at the top left corner. As soon as I realized, I did smudge a little bit, but it's all quite unnoticeable, hopefully. I did try to, you know, mask things, some of my mistakes, but yeah, this just, you know, just a sweet reminder to you all to definitely start at the opposite corner of the hand you write with, because smudging is very annoying. Slowly but surely, I made my way around the drawing from top left corner all the way to the other side of the paper, and every once in a while I just filled in little areas that I thought looked a little bit sparse. And after the line art was done, I left it to dry for a few minutes because I didn't want to go immediately in with some inks and then obviously, you know, bleed everything. So I let it dry for a bit and then added in color. From what I understand from all of my research into colored inks, the whole thing of colored inks is that they're very much layerable, which is something that I love. I love layering and creating like almost what would be a multiply layer or an overlay layer if you are very, you know, if you're very into digital art. You can basically do stuff like that with colored inks, which I think is phenomenal. So I started off by just adding, you know, all of the base colors to all of the different assets on the drawing, and then from what I understand, I could go in afterwards when all of this first layer was dry and start adding, you know, different layers of shadings and different hues for shadings, and I personally love that. I love doing shadows in different hues and maybe different tones to the drawing, because I think it adds just such a colorful, vibrant look to an art piece. I don't know, I really love that. And you can play a lot with lighting as well while doing that. It was just a very different sort of process, and I always love trying out different processes and see how I can apply them to other mediums. So this was definitely a lot of fun. Even though it was something new, it was quite relaxing. I really enjoyed it. It's different to watercolors, which I love a lot. I love painting in watercolors, but this was very different to that because you're not super focused on the whole blending and having to work with the stuff while it's wet. I think you can definitely chill out a little bit more with colored inks, I think, if you are using them in the layered fashion, which I was trying to do. Yeah, slowly but surely, I started filling in all of the flat colors. I wanted to give her hair like this sort of purpley color because I thought it would go really well with all the greens that were going to be around her. And also I think the character in my comic is going to have like this purpley color hair, so I thought mine as well. She also doesn't have a name currently, so if you guys want to suggest any names for this character, go right ahead in the comment section. I really appreciate it if you guys would help me name her. In terms of paintbrushes as well, everything I use is going to be down in the description. So yeah, for all the details, I normally use my Arteza detailed paintbrushes. I've been using them for years and they're impeccable. They're really, really tiny and they're perfect for little details like the hair strands, as you saw over there. And then I started adding the flats to all the little foliage and all the leaves. It was really fun having to, you know, create all these different shades of green. And then I started playing around with putting down drops of different colors into already wet patches and see how the colors blended in together naturally. It was just really fun, like playing around with this kind of new medium. It's just really beautiful when the ink dries and it has all these like little patterns that the water itself created. So I started playing around with that and doing that on all these little leaves because it just created brand new colors that I wouldn't have thought of if I was mixing them myself. I then wanted to add some like pops of color around all this green, so I decided to make the flowers and stuff like some different shades of pink and like some little reds and stuff, just because I thought it would be a really nice addition of color to to this background. So I went in with some different tones of pink and kind of blended the colors together to make some gradients in the petals themselves. And after I laid down pretty much all of the flats, I just kind of started adding some darker shades in layers to the areas where I wanted to darken, and just slowly but surely building up all that color. I also started adding shadows to this little fairy character, adding some color to her face as well. I just was really needing a whole day where I could just sit down and paint without, you know, any stress and just relax. If you guys follow the channel a lot, you might know this, but I've been really struggling with my mental health recently, as I'm sure a lot of us have. But yeah, I've been struggling with mental health for many years, and this year has been really rough, obviously, especially the past month and a half. So yeah, I've just, every time that I can, I've been practicing self-care, you know, just sitting down and doing what I know I love, even though at the time it might not seem like it, which is painting and just being creative. So this piece was definitely really helpful in that department, because it just had so much detail and just so many things I could play around with. It had like the transparencies and different elements that I could play around with. And then I actually started adding in the like overlay layer that I was kind of explaining earlier. I just added a hue of blue to the corners, making like a little vignette, you could call it, around the drawing. And this honestly is like, was one of my favorite parts of this whole painting. I think it really made it look beautiful and like really magical and mystical, and I really enjoyed the effect that it gave. I literally just took some of the turquoise with blue and just added it as a layer on top of the painting once it was completely dry, and it just gave this really beautiful effect. And I think this is the true magic of the colored inks, because you can achieve looks like this without all the inks, without all the colors like mixing together. I think you can really achieve some really beautiful layered looks. So I was really happy with this, because this was mainly the thing that I wanted to try out with the colored inks, was this whole technique. Yeah, I went in and started adding some deeper shadows onto the character with purples, attempting that same effect of an overlay layer, you know, with a purpley color, because that's what I really love to do in digital art, is adding shadows in a multiply layer with purples and pinks. I just think it looks really beautiful. For the last few couple of details, I took out my nib pen and the white ink that came with my set, which is ridiculously opaque. I really was not expecting this. I am astounded at how opaque this ink is. So I used my nib pen to just add in all of the little white details, and yeah, all the little highlights on her as well, all the little flowers, and also added some sparkles here and there, just because she's a fairy, she's magical. I think this the white ink really brought the piece together. It just made it look really crisp and neat. I also took some of it on one of my Arteza detail brushes and added some highlights to her hair and her body. I then, of course, also used the ink to sign my name at the bottom there. And then afterwards, I went in with my Pentel brush pen again and just went over some of the line art bits that had been concealed a little bit or were a bit faded because of the white ink that I mixed in with some of the colors. So just wanted to go over those and make them really noticeable again. And then it was time to peel all the washi tape. It's my favorite part of painting of all time, is just, oh, that crisp line. Look at that. As I said, I went back in with the white ink and added some sparkles here and there. It's one of my favorite things to do as well, is just adding sparkles everywhere. So yeah, I think it really finished off the painting, if you ask me. And with that, my painting with inks was complete. Thank you so much for joining me in my first ever attempt at using colored inks. I was very, very pleased with what I managed to produce, and I'm a big fan of inks now. I'll definitely be using them a lot from here on out. Let me know if you use inks a lot in your day-to-day, in your art. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye!